Hey everybody, this is Brianna Rutter, and in this hair tutorial, I am going to teach you how to do a side part lace closure sew-in, step by step for beginners. I wanted to challenge myself to pull this look off in only 1 hour, and I will show you exactly how I did it. The hair I installed is 3 bundles of Malaysian straight virgin hair from Wondess hair, and the length's 18 inches, and 1 16-inch middle part lace closure. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe and turn on bell for notifications so that you never miss a new tutorial from me again. Now let's get started with this look. So this is how I received my hair in a pink package, and up close, I'm gonna show you a few shots of the hair. It did come in a plastic packaging that was clear, but I took the packaging off so that way you can easily see how the hair looks that I received. And this is how quality their wefts are as well as their hair. Now we're starting off with my hair already straightened. So I lightly pressed my hair with a hot comb, and as you can see, I have a lot of oil in my hair, so that way I can keep my hair protected as I braid it and style it. So right now I'm taking a wide tooth comb and I'm separating the front edges because you don't want to braid the front edges of your hair, and you're going to go ahead and continue to braid the rest of your hair going back in the front, but in the back of the hair you're actually going to braid it going into a zigzag pattern. So I actually tested out this new braid pattern and I absolutely love it. I use this braid pattern now when I'm doing sew-ins as well as when I'm doing crochet hairstyles because it's absolutely perfect. It allows for you to have the right amount of bulk in certain areas of your head because you want the braids in back to be a little thinner and the braids in front to be a little thinner, and you want most of the bulk to kind of be dispersed in the middle area to kind of the back area of your head. So with this braid pattern you can easily do it on yourself without having to do the beehive, because if you do the regular beehive you have to go in one complete circle, which requires you to be able to actually braid upside down, and I cannot do that to save my life. So I'm just showing you and pointing with my fingers as I speed up some scenes to show you how you actually do this braiding technique. So like I said, I recently showed this braid pattern in a recent tutorial of mine, which was a crochet style, so if you haven't seen it, go ahead and check it out. So in the front, I wanted my part to be on this side, and I'm defining the area with my comb, and then I make sure to comb apart the hair so that I can braid very small braids that's near my hairline. So this is the thing, in order to do your sewing in under an hour, you have to be very selective about the sizes of your braids. You always want the braids near your front of your head to be smaller, and you want the rest to be a lot bigger. So as you can see, I'm parting the parts on my hair bigger and bigger so that the braids actually get larger in size. This is going to speed up the time that you're taking to do your hair, because remember, you want to only spend an hour doing this. So I challenged myself and I made it happen. And I'm barely editing these clips so that way you can see in slowed down and sped up versions the realistic time of me actually doing my hair without too much editing. So if you really appreciate this style of my tutorials, be sure to give me a big thumbs up and let me know what other hairstyles do you want to know how to do in under an hour. Let me know and I will be sure to put it to the test. And then of course I will make a tutorial to show you ladies how it's done. So this is how I like to braid my hair nearest my ears, and I like to go past the ears so it makes it very easy for track placement when I'm actually sewing down my extensions. Making sure to put one braid into the other to form this tail. So now I'm doing the same thing to the other side. Some of my braids were braided underhand and some were braided overhand. So you might notice the slight difference in texture when you're looking at the braids. The braid that's very nearest my hairline, I actually braided that underhand because it was a lot easier for me, being that it was so far on the other side of my head because I'm not wearing a middle part. So now all of the braids in front are braided down and the braids in the back are braided in a zigzag pattern, as you can see here. And all of my braids are not equal in size. I just wanted to make them as thin as possible or as thick as possible without having too much bulk. Now this definitely saves time from actually doing your sewing is by using a crochet hook to crochet the ends of your braids throughout your braid pattern. When you're sewing down your hair, it takes you a little longer, and then when you're crocheting, it actually speeds up the process. So I highly suggest this tip in order to pull off this look. And this is how my braid pattern looks right before I begin sewing my extensions. Now this is not the most amazing braid pattern you will ever see. This is literally for the sole purpose of being able to achieve a sewing in 1 hour. And this is how my braids look after I finish braiding them down. So now at this point, as you can see, I have a weaving net here, and I was highly debating this because I wanted to add a little extra sturdiness, but I realized, you know what, most times when we do our sewings, we don't necessarily use a weaving net, and it saves on time. So I'm just gonna go ahead and begin sewing in my extensions, but we're only going to be sewing 2 rows at a time. So as you can see, I'm putting my needle through one of the wefts, and then I'm gonna grab that needle, pull it through, and pull it through the other weft as well. We're going to double track sew throughout our entire install, no single track rows, because we want to add as much bulk as quick as possible without taking too much time with single track rows. So I'm gonna start at the side of my head, and I like to sew making sure to go into a slight C curve. So even with my very first track, I like to go up a little bit of the ways so that way I can stitch it kind of behind my ear. So you just pull the needle through your braid, you go under your weft, you wrap the string around your fingers twice and pull through to create a knot. So if I explain that just a little bit too fast, just hang in there because I'm gonna show you over and over again in little different ways, little tricks that I do when I'm actually sewing it down. So like I said, you wanna make sure you create your knot by pulling it tight, put your needle under your braid, under your two wefts, wrap the thread around the needle twice, pull the needle to create a knot. You're going to do the same exact stitching technique throughout the entire process of sewing down your hair extensions. So when I normally do my sewings, I'm always in like a slight routine because I know exactly how I do my hair. I always do one track in the back, and then I do two tracks kind of in the middle, and then I do my flip over single track. So if you guys or ladies know what a sew-in is and you've seen this plenty of times, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So once again, to make sure you're speeding up this process, you want to do everything as quickly as possible, meaning you want to leave out some steps. So that's why all of my rows of sewing in my stitches are going to be double tracked only. Even when I do the flip over near my edges, it's also going to be double tracked, because when you do the flip over with a single track, it tends to take a little bit more time to kind of maneuver the hair to make it work. No one's gonna see that you did a double track fold over on the edges of your hair, and no one's gonna see your braid pattern, so don't worry about it. I highly suggest this style for those of you who are pressed on time or who just don't like to sit for long periods of time. Now the con to doing this type of look is that it won't last as long as a traditional sewing. The reason why is because with a regular sewing, your braids are a lot smaller, which allows your install to last longer, and your tracks are single sewn, which allows for them to stay attached longer on your hair without the tracks loosening. Now, as I was wearing the style, I did not notice it loosening at all. So now we're at the point where I'm showing you the fold over, and like I said, you keep those two tracks together, you fold them back over, and you sew your knot right on top of the fold. I like to sew on top of the fold about 2 to 3 times, sometimes 4 times. I tend to have to do that with curly hair, but because this hair is straight, I've only had to do it about 2 to 3 times before I continue to stitch going back in the opposite direction. So for those who are not new to this, when you're actually doing sew-ins, or those who are new, you want to make sure that you're actually doing the fold over method so that you're not cutting through your hair extensions. Because when you cut through your hair extensions, it causes exactly where that cut to be to have some shedding. And it's not necessary to do that if you're pretty much going to be using all the same length and you're just sewing it in as you see right here. So as you can see, this is how it looks with the double fold over method at the edges. Now that I'm almost done, I like to save a little bit of space at the top to sew my closure. Now I noticed some women like to sew their closure first and then sew in all their extensions, but I noticed that for me, when I'm sewing, it causes my actual lace area to be way too tight, because I like to stop right here and then sew it and then finish off with the rest of the weft. So really, to each their own. This method works for me to preventing my lace closure from being too tight on my head. Because like I said, if I sew my lace closure first and then I sew in all of my bundles, this exact area will be just extremely too tight for me. So you're just working your way around, making sure to go by mirroring braids, and then you want to make sure to wrap the thread around twice to pull through to create your knot. So as you can see here, I'm finishing up that last row. And like I said, we weren't doing double tracks, but now I'm kind of being a little bit hypocritical because we're finishing it off. But it's very important that you keep the area around your lace as flat as possible because it makes for a very flawless install. So what I did is I cut the extensions where they were doubled, and now I'm just stitching this very last row with a single track instead of a double track. Like I said, this allows for it to be very flat near your lace closure. So then I just fold that back, and then I measure about how long I need it to be. I cut off the weft and finish stitching it. Now we're left with our lace, and as you can see here, I haven't removed the lace yet because first I want to define my part. Now you can do this with water in a blow dryer, but for me, I noticed that using a hot comb works a whole lot better. It also depends on the hair sometimes. This Wondess hair is extremely easy to manipulate, and the texture is so real. It feels exactly like real hair because it's 100% virgin hair. So you don't have to worry about any issues when it comes to adding heat or coloring your hair or anything like that. So now that I've defined my part where my actual scalp will be shown, I'm now removing the lace. I'm not cutting a straight line, I'm kind of doing little zigzags throughout, so that way it can lay a lot natural against my skin. So now at this point, I'm gonna be using Got To Be Glue hair gel, and I'm also going to be using Got To Be Glue hairspray to pin down the top or glue down the top of my lace. Normally, I like to sew through the braids that's at the very edge where my lace closure is anchored. And if you want to see detailed tutorials on that, I already have playlists on how I do my techniques when I'm doing a traditional install. But because we're doing this in 1 hour, I want to limit all the times that I normally sew. So I'm actually going to be gelling this down as you see here. This technique is also used when you're actually gelling down a lace wig or a frontal wig. So it definitely works the same way when doing an actual lace closure. It's the same technique, even though the amount of hair is a little bit smaller. So now I'm just using water and a brush, and this is just a regular edge brush for styling your edges. And I had a little bit of the hair gel already on the slight edges of my hair. So I just put a little bit of water on that so I can re-soften it and manipulate it exactly how I want without needing to add more product. So if you notice that you literally have a ghost sitting on your hairline, that's because you're adding too much gel. So just re-wet your brush and then brush over your hair so that way you can manipulate the product again to allow for a very smooth and beautiful finish. So I just blow dry that in place, making sure to use the rat tail end of my comb so that way I don't allow it to lift from my scalp, and I'm pressing down so it can fully dry. Now I put a little bit of hair gel on my brush because I didn't put any product on this side. So I'm just adding little swoops along my hairline, or what I like to call a little swoopage action, okay? And then I like to just smooth that in so that way I can tie off my look. One trick I also like to do to allow my hair to be extremely flat is I use the back of a hot comb to smoothen my hair, and then I like to finish it off with a little bit of smoothing spray so that way I can tie in the look all together. So there you have it, how to do a sew-in in under 1 hour. So as you can tell, I skipped a lot of steps to make this style be able to be achieved in a little bit of time. This style lasted me for a good strong 2 weeks, and when I hit that 3-week mark, I had to let it go. Because like I said, when you do smaller braids and you sew in single tracks, it allows for your install to last a lot longer. But if you are pressed for time but still want to wear sew-in, I highly suggest that you follow these tips. So I want to thank y'all so much for watching this, and I got more tutorials coming on the way. Oh, by the way, if you watched this far, I gotta ask you a question. Are you team leave out or are you team no leave out, and why? So if you want to get this hair, be sure to click the links in the description box to get your Wondess hair extensions, which I absolutely love. Until then, see you guys later.